Discover the incredible risk. Clint took with Unforgiven's shocking ending, a transformative car. Clint tightened his grip on the wrench, the familiar weight a comfort in the chaos swirling around him. Amid the grit and grease of his family-owned garage, a storm brewed. Just outside, a corporate giant loomed, scheming to buy him out and erase the legacy of hard work his grandfather had built. He could still hear his father's voice echoing in his mind. Integrity is worth more than a quick buck, son. But the pressure was mounting, and each ticking second felt like a countdown to a showdown. He glanced over at Earl, his father, lazily watching the dust motes dance in the sunlight filtering through the garage windows. Earl had been a lawman, a guardian of values, until the years and the burdens of age dulled his once sharp resolve. Clint knew their situation was precarious. Another month of bills piling up and they could be finished. 2 generations of pride hanging by a thread of hope. A knot tightened in Clint's stomach. What if he had to sell? What kind of man would he be? A sellout sacrificing everything for safety. His heart raced with internal conflict, questioning if loyalty attracted success or failure. Suddenly, a flicker of inspiration ignited as he rummaged through the attic one evening. Dusty and cobwebbed, he unearthed an old notebook, pages yellowed with time and filled with his grandfather's stories. The words captured Clint, each line resonating within him, revealing shadows of a talent he never knew existed. Storytelling wasn't just a pastime, it became his lifeline. What if he could write something profound, something about the struggles his family endured that could resonate with others? With the company breathing down his neck, he decided to pen a screenplay about the iconic shootout from Unforgiven. It was a risk, an escape route or a detour into oblivion. As days blurred into nights, his writing consumed him. But the challenge was overwhelming. How to express his small-town roots in a world that often deemed them insignificant? The film industry was fickle, and he was painfully aware of the prejudices surrounding those who didn't fit the industry's fast-paced mold. Clint fought against a rising feeling of inadequacy, questioning if he could capture the essence of a fight worth fighting. Could his words ever rival the powerful messages of the big names? What if it wasn't good enough? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. Clint shared his script with Earl, who, surprisingly, came alive with enthusiasm. Earl's encouragement fueled Clint's determination, but it also unearthed fears. What if he failed? What if he poured his heart out into the project, only to have it trampled by the industry? Doubt wrapped around him like a vice. And as the pressures intensified, a corporate offer creeping closer, a delicate family legacy hanging in the balance, Clint's very essence felt threatened. The day of reckoning approached with an air of dread. Town Hall was abuzz with the imminent proposal. He could feel the weight of his family's history pressing down on him like an anvil. A part of him wanted to run, to escape the expectations woven into his identity. Yet another part wanted to confront everything, to stand before his community and declare what it all truly meant to him. But could he? Could he risk it all to fight for a future that felt more uncertain than ever? As fate pushed him toward the edge, Clint's heart raced with the keen realization. The fight for family and legacy was just beginning. But at what cost? Clint's mind raced as the clock ticked towards the town hall meeting. He fidgeted with the crumpled pages of his screenplay, now worn and frayed from constant handling. Each word felt both like a lifebuoy in a turbulent storm and a potential anchor pulling him deeper into despair. Striding around the cluttered garage, the scent of oil and metal sharpened his focus. The garage had always been a sanctuary, but today it felt more like a battleground. Earl waved him over, an unusual spark in his tired eyes. "This is it, son," he said, the gravity of his tone a testament to the seriousness of their situation. "You've poured your soul into that screenplay, You have to believe it's worthwhile. Believe? Clint scoffed, yet the sadness in his father's eyes caught him off guard. What if it isn't? What if they laugh us off the stage? Son, Earl began, his voice steady despite the impending storm outside. Writing that screenplay is a declaration in itself. It's not just about success or failure. It's about your heritage and your truth. Clint could see the years of struggle weave through Earl's words, a history of enduring principles now mirrored in Clint's endeavor. The speech at town hall loomed in his mind, causing a surge of adrenaline. Sharing his screenplay was akin to presenting a piece of his heart, raw, vulnerable, ripe for judgment. And yet, the more he thought about it, the more it began to feel like a necessary sacrifice. The possibility of exposing himself, his roots, pain, and pride, seemed like a chance worth taking. What if he could inspire others with his family's journey, just as his grandfather inspired him? The thought bolstered Clint's resolve. He spent the rest of the afternoon rehearsing, his voice echoing off garage walls as he practiced, not just for the upcoming meeting, but for the transformation he hoped to undergo. Each line he delivered resonated with a newfound conviction. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows into the garage, Clint felt the weight of expectation settle in. But the anxiety he felt was different now. Less a paralyzing fear, and more a simmering flame of determination. It wasn't just about saving the garage. This was about marking his identity. Arriving at town hall the following day, he felt the eyes of neighbors and friends bore into him. Was he really prepared to lay bare his concerns and dreams? He could see the corporate representatives lounging confidently at the front, a pack of wolves eyeing their prey. The very thought incited a primal fight-or-flight response. With his pulse quickening, he steeled himself for his turn. When the moment arrived, he stepped onto the stage, gripping the edge of the podium. The room was silent, anticipation thick in the air. But the instincts that had driven him to write surged within him. "I am Clint," he began, voice steadying. He plunged into the core of his screenplay, delivering snippets of his family's story, weaving in elements of resilience and sacrifice. With each line, he witnessed subtle nods from the audience, interspersed glances of understanding. This was no longer merely a screenwriter's pitch. It was a catalyst for change. Just as he would have in the garage, he poured himself into the moment, fighting against the rising doubts. But the real test awaited. As he concluded, a corporate suit stood, his smile masking disdain. "What makes you think this little tale matters?" Clint froze, the sting of humiliation pricking his confidence. The man's voice reverberated in the crowd and Clint's insides twisted. Yet, in that instant of doubt, he felt an undeniable shift within. He would confront them. This was no longer an isolated battle. It was about rediscovering his voice amidst the chaos. The words rushed out before he could second-guess himself. "Because it's not just a tale, it's our truth, and it matters." The murmurs in the crowd hinted at a kind of solidarity he hadn't expected. And just like that, the moment of confrontation transformed from a moment of doubt to one of revelation. His personal fight had shifted. It was now about reclaiming influence and crafting legacy. Clint realized he had but scratched the surface in this industry filled with giants. Igniting their interest felt like just the beginning. What if this wasn't merely a call to save his family garage? What if it was a launching pad into the life he truly wanted? The tension surged as he faced the corporate giant directly, his heart roaring with newfound bravery. Was he prepared to risk everything for this chance? The stakes had never been higher, and the momentum he felt fueled a surge of possibilities. As the weight of Clint's declaration echoed in the room, he sensed a palpable shift. A mix of disbelief and intrigue rippled through the audience. For the first time, he saw not just skeptical faces, but one or two that seemed to light up with recognition. This was more than a story. It was a call to arms wrapped in the intimate fabric of his reality. Yet the corporate suit's smirk lingered like a stain on his courage. How could one dismiss the power of narrative so easily? The realization that this moment bore equal parts opportunity and peril seized him. Clint felt both the pride of his family history and the haunting fear of rejection coiling around him tightly. He remembered Earl's words about believing in one's legacy. This was their legacy, distilled into a few impactful lines. What makes it matter? Clint's voice was charged now, tinged with defiance. It matters because it reflects not only who we are, but also who we aspire to be. It's about the struggles we nail to the wall, literally and figuratively. It's about standing firm in the face of the culture that tries to swallow us whole. The man sneered, clearly unfazed, perhaps seeing Clint's resolve as an opportunity for sport. And do you think your little tale can change minds? These people, he gestured towards the crowd with an exaggerated wave, are here for funding and profits, not stories. Clint felt the sting of controlled chaos arise within him. His thoughts raced, not in retreat, but rather sorting through possibilities. He could wither under the gaze of this predator, or take it a step further. The audience, once mere faces in the crowd, began to feel like companions in this struggle. I don't just think it can change minds, Clint responded, his voice gaining an undeniable strength. I know it can. Our stories forge connections where business as usual fails. Because when we share our truth, we're not just talking about little tales. We're tearing down the walls between us. This newfound perspective was empowering. Each word felt more potent, slicing through the tension that had cocooned the room. Clint's gaze shifted over the audience, catching glimpses of familiar faces, friends and neighbors who wore expressions of encouragement. Allies. He could see in them a burgeoning hope that echoed his own, one that sought validity against the tide of indifference represented by the corporate suit. Yet deep down, Clint wrestled with the precariousness of this moment. Could he truly sustain this narrative shift? There was something exhilarating about the risk, but it was alien territory. His hands gripped the podium harder, his knuckles whitening. Would he follow through? Would the world reject him for packing so much of his identity into a screenplay? As he contemplated the path ahead, an idea sparked within him, a focus on the next steps needed to solidify this newfound strength. Perhaps he needed to delve deeper into the community's stories and create a comprehensive piece, one that fused individual experiences into a collective narrative. When he slid into that thought, he felt an urgency surge through him, a recognition that this moment was not just for himself, but for a vast web of lives intertwined with his. He would not just be a screenwriter, but a builder of bridges. He glanced at the corporate representative again, this time with a look that spelled determination. I have a responsibility to my family, my community, and myself. I will tell our stories, and I will find a way to make them heard. If you can't see the potential in that, then perhaps you're the one failing to understand. At that moment, Clint felt the floor beneath him shift from uncertainty to a solid foundation of possibilities. It may have been a risk, but it was a risk worth taking. As the meeting climaxed, he realized the corporate guy would not remain silent forever. There would be further challenges and confrontations, and he would need to prepare himself for the battles ahead. This would be no easy path. The journey had only just begun. What awaited him in the shadows of that hall? Would it be allies who could further his cause or adversaries willing to fight back? Whatever lay ahead, Clint could feel the stakes rising, layering the tension around him. He had ignited something within, not just for himself but for everyone he represented. And with that realization, a flood of determination surged. The next steps would require courage, strategy, and a relentless pursuit for his truth to remain heard in a world that could just as easily drown it out. Yet another voice broke through the air, louder yet. We'll see you in court if you continue with this, the suit hissed, coldness lacing every syllable. Clint's heart raced. The fight had just truly begun. Would he be ready to defend his ideals against unexpected threats? Clint stood at the podium, the laughter that had just faded replaced by a tense silence. The threat of legal action hung in the air like an unsheathed sword, waiting for the moment to strike. The corporate suit had challenged more than just his narrative. He had rattled the foundations on which Clint planned to build his dream. What was once a moment of inspiration now turned into a battle against fear and doubt. Every remark made by the suit replayed in Clint's mind, clawing at his self-assurance. He inhaled deeply, brushing off the cold chill that crept up his spine, reminding himself that he possessed a unique perspective that craved expression. But now, facing this storm, Clint had to sift through the whirlwind of emotions brewing inside him. Would the threat of litigation stifle his ambitions, or could it ignite a fiery resolve? He surveyed the audience again, feeling their eyes upon him, weighing him like a scale. They believed in him. Could he rise to meet their expectations? The audience was not here simply for tales of fantasy, but to witness his resolve in the face of adversity. Clint decided he had to shift from defensive to offensive. In the face of confrontation, he would turn to the stories he once thought were quaint, mundane, now essential. After what felt like hours, he found his voice, steady and resolute. This isn't just about the narratives I want to create, it's also about the power we all hold in sharing our truths. If I am met with resistance, I will not back down. I will adapt. The boldness in his words began to take shape within him. Each syllable acted almost as armor against the disapproval of the suit, fueling his determination. It was clear to him now, he must gather the stories of those whose lives echoed the struggles he championed, not just as survival tactics but as blueprints of resilience. Walking away from the podium, Clint knew he needed to reinvigorate his narrative strategy. He envisioned the next steps with clarity. Gathering testimonials, creating visual representations, reaching out to the community to show them that their voices mattered. He would amplify their truths and create a collective narrative so powerful that it would give flight to the ideals he now clenched within. He needed to reinvent himself. He wouldn't just be a writer, but the curator of a movement. This notion startled and delighted him at once, and he felt the new heft of responsibility, as well as the thrill of possibility. Days turned to nights as Clint dove headfirst into research. He interviewed townsfolk over coffee, listened to their laughter and tears, captured their voices on paper. In their stories, he began seeing the intricacies of his own life reflected back, the fears, desires, and accomplishments. Each new story not only reinforced the collective identity of his community, but also illuminated his own path. He honed his writing with each narrative until it became distinct, powerful. No longer vague or apologetic, his work burst with authenticity. Still, as he pored over drafts, questions loomed. Would the corporate suit retaliate beyond threats? How could Clint safeguard his narrative in a landscape defined by money and influence? There were moments of fear, yes, but they became stepping stones to find the courage to push through. Then came a fateful phone call. It was Clara, a pivotal figure in the community, known for her courage and unyielding spirit. "Clint, I heard about the threats. They're trying to silence you. Let's meet." His heart raced at the thought of a confrontation. Clara had always stood her ground and, more importantly, had a fire about her that inspired bravery in those around her. Perhaps she held parts of the key he was missing. As he prepared for their meeting, a strange mix of hope blossomed inside him. Could she be just the collaborator he needed? But with that hope, another wave of doubt gnawed at the edges of his resolve. After all, how would he keep the narrative intact against such a formidable force? He had a decision to make. Trust in the authenticity of his stories to serve as a shield and a sword. The question was, how far was he willing to go to protect them? As the sun set, casting shadows into his room, Clint reflected deeply. This was it, the moment he had been building towards. He was on the precipice, staring into the unknown, wondering if he would dive in or retreat. What awaited him in the depths of that encounter with Clara? Would they forge a partnership to defend their shared truths? Or would the threat of suppression snuff out the flame of resilience that had just ignited? Clint arrived at the cafe, heart pulsing in sync with the buzzing lights above him. Clara had chosen this public space deliberately, an open battleground where discussions of courage came alive. He could almost feel the weight of their shared struggle as he stepped inside, every seat filled with people, conversations weaving a tapestry of resilience. Yet within him, a storm brewed. He found Clara seated at a corner table, a steaming mug of coffee cradled in her hands. Her presence was commanding, her expression calm but resolute. The moment their eyes met, Clint felt the surge of confidence. Here was a woman who had confronted her own battles and emerged nuanced, sophisticated. "Clint," she greeted, her voice steady. "I heard about your altercation at the podium. You handled it well. Thanks," he replied, fidgeting with the sugar packets on the table. "But what happens next? I can't push forward without a plan." Clara leaned in, her gaze penetrating yet warm. "It's not just about what's next for you. It's about what's next for all of us who believe in the authenticity of our stories. We're at a whim of someone powerful, and we need to protect those narratives." Her words ignited something within Clint, stoking the fire that had dimmed in the aftermath of the suit's threat. "But what if they come after us? What if I lose everything?" "Authenticity is powerful, Clint," Clara asserted, her tone fierce, accompanied by an urgency that made his own fears seem trivial. "If we don't stand our ground, if we don't fight for our truths, we risk losing much more than just our voices." Clint absorbed her conviction. He had always admired Clara's ability to rise in the face of opposition. It made him confront his own hesitations. Was he ready to put everything on the line, to transform this struggle into something more than mere survival? Or would fear inhibit him? "Let's make our voices louder," Clara proposed, a flicker of excitement igniting her eyes. "We can host a forum, invite community members to share their experiences. This isn't just your story, it's ours. We can outshine their threats with our truth." Could it really work? Opening up the narrative would put him even more in the crosshairs, and yet an undeniable urge to rise accompanied every thought of betrayal and suppression he'd faced. What remained to be unearthed within himself? "I need to know that no matter how much resistance we face, I won't be fighting alone. Are you with me?" Clara's challenge hung in the air like an unmovable object, beckoning him toward transformation. "Absolutely." It was a simple yes, but as he spoke, he felt an undercurrent of empowerment rising, drowning out the fear that had kept him stagnant for so long. Clint found strength in the realization that forging ahead meant not just self-advocacy, but advocacy for others as well. Their work commenced instantly, brainstorming ideas, crafting a plan of action that involved sourcing allies and creating a platform for others to tell their stories. Clint began to feel more than just a sense of duty. It was a burgeoning identity. They envisioned forums filled with honest voices, raw emotions, and an electric atmosphere of camaraderie that would hold back the tide of legal threats. As they reviewed their strategies, questions tantalized Clint's mind. Would the corporate power be able to suppress a movement born of authentic experiences? Was this new path going to reinforce the very system that oppresses, or could it, instead, dismantle it piece by piece? Thoughts swirling, he felt a blend of exhilaration and trepidation. He had awakened a part of himself that knew the fight for truth would demand everything. All the while, the muted fears within whispered doubts he dared not confront. But the moment Clara clasped his hand across the table, grounding them both in a pact forged from shared determination, he knew this was a tipping point. They were about to rally a narrative fiercely intertwined with their narratives, and he was ready to confront the formidable unknown that lay ahead. What would happen when the walls of power started to crumble under the weight of their united voices? Could they truly create something indelible? Or would they find themselves tangled in a web even more dangerous than before? Clint's resolve grew stronger with each passing moment. As he and Clara exchanged quick ideas, the cafe faded into the background of his mind. His pulse steadied in the rhythm of their growing ambition. Today, they were not just two individuals brainstorming. They were architects of a potential revolution. "Let's set a date for our first forum." Clara's voice broke through Clint's reverie, her presence a beacon of tenacity amidst the chaotic thoughts swirling in his mind. "We'll invite storytellers from various backgrounds. Make it personal, authentic. We need to kindle a spark that elevates our struggle." Questions bubbled up within him, challenging his burgeoning confidence. What if no one showed up? What if their stories didn't resonate? Yeah, but what if it fails? Clara fixed him with a steady gaze. And what if it doesn't? Failure isn't where our power lies. It's in our willingness to take the leap. You've got to lean into that discomfort, Clint. He took a deep breath, forcing back the apprehension that threatened to paralyze him. Leaning into discomfort, wasn't that what he was trying to accomplish here? The thought of his own vulnerabilities on public display was daunting, yet Clara's infectious enthusiasm ignited a flicker of hope within him. "Okay," he conceded, smiling despite his doubts. "Let's make it happen." In the days that followed, Clint transformed his anxiety into action. Early mornings became brainstorming sessions adorned with hastily scribbled notes, and evenings turned into phone calls seeking like-minded individuals. He could hardly recognize himself. This wasn't the uncertain man who hesitated before a podium. This was a warrior, advocating for voices that desperately needed to be heard. As interest grew, Clint learned details about others' experiences, stories of resilience, heartbreak, and triumph that mirrored his own in unexpected ways. Each narrative deepened his understanding of the collective struggle all around him. He began rewriting his own internal script. Fear transformed into courage, doubt shifted toward conviction. But Clara's ambition was infectious, and as they grew more confident, he found himself lost in the tide of preparation, feeling exhilarated, yet overwhelmed. Did he really belong in this arena? Amidst their careful planning, a shadow loomed, whispering that corporate power was watching. They weren't simply fighting for themselves, but for everyone who felt mashed beneath the weight of silencing. During one late-night strategy session, Clara posed a question that struck a nerve. How will we react if they come for us? What's our exit strategy? The moment hung pregnant with possibility and tension. Clint shifted in his chair, his pulse quickening. "Maybe we need to go on the offensive," he suggested, heart racing at the audacity of his words. "What if we released some of our stories before the forum? Show the world that we are brave, that we won't be sidelined." Clara considered this, a light of understanding blossoming in her eyes. "It's risky, but it could position us as leaders, not just victims. It's about flipping the narrative." Clint felt a jolt of excitement coursing through him. They could dictate their own story, challenge perceptions. Would this bold move be the catalyst they needed? As they debated possible storylines to release to the public, Clint's resolve heightened. No longer would he shrink back from scrutiny. The risk loomed larger now, but so did the potential for transformation, not only for himself but for those willing to join their cause. In that moment, Clint felt the weight of responsibility roll off his shoulders yet again, replaced with an exhilarating charge. Perhaps within each secret he shared, he could tap into a hidden capability he'd never acknowledged. What would it cost him to take this audacious step? And if success came, how would he handle the inevitable backlash? The intensity of his thoughts surged as he considered their next move. It was time to lay down stakes in the turbulent game of power. But as their conversations deepened, intertwined with anticipation and dread, he couldn't shake the feeling that the true challenge would only begin when they caught the attention of those who sought to silence them. The moment of confrontation loomed ever closer, a beast waiting to unleash its fury. Would Clint be prepared for the very fight he had long craved? Clint awoke to the crack of dawn, the day stretching before him like a blank canvas waiting for the first stroke of paint. The resolve he'd begun cultivating sent shivers through him as he envisioned the stories he would help unfold, those raw narratives he was ready to share with the world. But lurking beneath that excitement was a layer of uncertainty, a tightness in his chest that shadowed the dawn of this new chapter in his life. Sitting at his kitchen table, he was consumed by thoughts of logistics. They had agreed to send out a series of articles leading to their planned forum, but how would he balance vulnerability with authority? Realizing the potential impact of their stories made his stomach knot. He reached for a pen, determined to draft his own contribution. What would he say? What story would embody the struggle? Each sentence felt like a mining expedition into his past, painful but necessary. As he pored over his notes, he discovered he was no longer just a character in a story. He was becoming a narrator, a sculptor shaping his own narrative. Each word scribbled down became a testament to his growth. He was laying bare the skeleton of his fear and cloaking it with armor fashioned from experience. The doubts inevitably crept in. Should he focus on the triumphs or the scars? Would detailing his failures make him seem weak? Tell the truth. Clara's voice echoed in his mind, her earlier words cutting through his indecision. It was a reminder of the purpose behind their mission. They were not just telling stories. They were building a bridge for others to cross in their own struggles. His hand moved quickly across the page as he wrestled with his inner demons, revealing those moments of darkness that had shaped him. Hours slipped by in a blur of ink and contemplation, and just as the sun dipped below the horizon, he penned the final line of his first draft. He felt unshackled from the expectations of conformity, as if he had liberated an unseen part of himself. Yet as he read over his words, a familiar anxiety returned. What if they didn't resonate as he hoped? What if those closest to him didn't approve? The fear of judgment was a heavy coat he wasn't sure he could bear. The following days blurred into a whirlwind of activity as Clara and Clint worked tirelessly to finalize their articles and share them online. He was gaining momentum, yet this excitement was in stark contrast to the gnawing doubt that clung to him. Each notification of feedback from early readers felt like a jolt of electricity. He craved validation, but feared the backlash. Clint reminded himself that every response offered a chance for dialogue, a new path to understanding. But as the readership grew, so did the whispers of dissent. They were no longer simply hopeful narrators. Now they stood on a precipice, daring to challenge the powerful. Clint sensed a palpable shift in the atmosphere. With coverage came scrutiny, and with scrutiny came risks. One morning, while scrolling through comments online, he stumbled across heated debates about their motives. Some praised their bravery, others dismissed them as naive crusaders. A wave of nausea washed over him as he read derogatory remarks that felt like arrows aimed at his heart. For every encouraging message, there seemed to be an equally venomous response, and they were real and biting. Clint palmed his phone, reeling from the implications. The stakes were rising, drawing him closer to the confrontation he both anticipated and dreaded. Had he unintentionally ignited a wildfire? The moment of truth approached. He was not only risking his reputation but also confronting the very structure he sought to dismantle. "Get ready, Clint. They're watching," he whispered to himself, the remnants of doubt flaring up like embers in a dying fire. As he prepared to step into the fray, he couldn't ignore the tightening grip around his throat, a reminder that courage and fear often dance together. What had begun as a simple expression of truth was now morphing into a potent challenge against unseen forces. Would he have the strength to withstand the backlash that loomed on the horizon? How deep would his conviction run, and what pain was he willing to endure to ensure his voice echoed beyond the shadows? The tension crawled under his skin, urging him to confront the beast lurking just beyond the threshold. It was a matter of time before they would come for him. Clint stood alone in his dimly lit office, the morning sunlight barely filtering through the half-drawn blinds. The soft hum of the city outside felt distant, an irrelevant background to the storm brewing inside him. He had committed to this journey, yet grappling with the growing negativity left him feeling exposed and vulnerable. There was no going back now. He was in the thick of it. As he stared at his computer screen, the editing software flickering with half-finished articles, doubts clouded his thoughts. He reread the responses to his latest piece, searching for reassurance among the negative comments. There it was again, that acid burn of anxiety. Had he gone too far? Had he dared to share too much of himself, too much of the struggle that had become both his burden and his greatest strength? Each piece of feedback became a lens through which he examined his growing resolve. They challenged him to strip away the pretense that he had built up over years, the training to submit to societal expectations that dictated silence in the face of adversity. Clara's unwavering conviction remained a warm ember in the back of his mind, illuminating the dark corners of his fear. He needed to reconnect with his purpose. Taking a deep breath, Clint began typing again. This time he didn't focus on the external responses swirling around him. Instead, he revisited the rawness that had spurred him to write in the first place. He recalled the obscured pain of his youth, the shadows that once felt impossibly dark, and the transformative journey he had endured since. The emotions flowed from him freely, words tumbling onto the page like confessions. "Sometimes it takes losing everything to find out what you're really made of," he wrote, almost surprised by the clarity with which he articulated his thoughts. The surge of authenticity felt palpable, lifting the weight of judgment from his shoulders, even if only temporarily. Freedom from fear sprung from the heart of empathy, and within that space, he began to see himself as a compassionate guide rather than a mere storyteller. Each sentence became a phase of his metamorphosis, vulnerability entwined with conviction. He questioned whether he was ready to bear witness to others grappling with their pain. Maybe these articles could serve as a catalyst for transformation, an invitation to unearth their stories. By facing judgment head-on, perhaps he could help others learn to confront their criticisms as well. But the thought of backlash lingered still. What if the very stories meant to heal only stirred the tempest? He felt the need for a strategy, a means of preparing himself for potential repercussions. His heart raced at the thought. What would he say when an antagonist confronted him face to face? And what about the passion that burgeoned in him, the urge to push boundaries? As he contemplated these questions, Clint realized he was standing on the brink of something greater than himself, tempted to embrace the storm rather than flee from it. The next stage of his journey demanded a bolder Clint, one who would not shy away from confrontation. Then it struck him. He needed to create an event, a dialogue where he could invite others into this conversation, both supporters and skeptics. A public forum where fears could be voiced and truths challenged. Gritting his teeth, he began planning how to make it happen. Igniting a flame of excitement within the chaos of uncertainty, the adrenaline rushed through him, pushing aside the nagging doubts. But he knew the stakes. It wasn't solely about his voice anymore. It would be about offering others the safety and breadth of sharing their stories too. Just as he was losing himself in idealized visions of the forum, a text message popped up on his phone, jolting him back to reality. As he reached for it, he braced for what could be an explosive moment. The message chimed ominously, hinting at the criticism he feared but also the dawning of confrontation. "Clint, we need to talk. This is getting out of hand." His heart pounded in his chest. The time had come to face his critics. Would he stand firm against the oncoming tide, ready to embrace the identity he sought to forge? Or would this moment fulfill his deepest fears? An uneasy resolve washed over him. It was now or never. Clint stared at his phone, his fingers hovering over the screen as the implications of the message loomed larger in his mind. Was this a warning or an invitation to address the mounting criticism? The specter of self-doubt curled around him as he inhaled deeply, forcing himself to consider the gravity of the moment. This was more than just a conversation. It was a pivotal crossroads. He typed back a quick response, steeling himself for what was to come. When and where? The anticipation crackled in the air, a mixture of dread and eagerness. After sending the short reply, he turned his attention back to the cacophony of unfinished articles on his screen. Each draft felt like a whisper of his internal conflict, remnants of his struggle to articulate a truth unfiltered by fear. Minutes ticked by like hours, the silence amplifying his anxiety. He could feel the weight of expectation pressing against his chest, his own as much as others. He was determined to reframe the narrative swirling around his work. But how could he solidify his resolve in the face of potential backlash? Planning was no longer enough. He needed to embody the conviction he had been cultivating. In that quiet moment, the idea struck like lightning. He would draft a manifesto of sorts, a bold declaration of his intentions and the principles guiding his writing. The very essence of his revelations demanded to be highlighted. "I write not to be liked, but to evoke thought, to stir conversations that might seem uncomfortable but are necessary." He began typing fervently, the words spilling onto the screen as if they had been waiting for this moment. Articulating his values transformed the atmosphere of his office. Each keystroke became a resolute step towards claiming his voice, layering courage over the fear that had stunted him for too long. His manifesto captured his growth, how he had moved from a silent observer, shackled by expectations, to an active participant ready to confront the storms that lay ahead. The moment he hit save, a wave of tranquility washed over him. Clint leaned back in his chair, allowing the adrenaline to settle as he considered the impending conversation. His heart raced, not from fear but from the exhilarating prospect of asserting his purpose. He rehearsed responses in his mind, anticipating the questions that would emerge from his critics. Yet amidst the preparation and newfound determination, a troubling thought crept in. Was he merely fostering an echo chamber of his own making? His aim had always been to encourage dialogue, but what if he was inadvertently cementing existing divides? The self-reflective tendency of his nature gnawed at him, but it also ignited a deeper resolve. He would delve into these fears during his conversation. Authenticity did not just mean sharing victories, it also meant exposing vulnerabilities and uncertainties. Just as he finished mapping out points for discussion, his phone buzzed with a new message. The screen illuminated with a name that sent a jolt of trepidation through him. Catherine, one of his fiercest critics and former colleagues. "Let's meet tonight. I have some thoughts about your latest article, and I think we need to have an open discussion." The invitation carried an edge, a challenge. Clint swallowed hard, feeling the weight of his own convictions in tandem with the fear of confrontation. Would he defend his narrative, or would he lose himself in passionate rebuttals? Clint glanced at the clock and felt time stretch in both directions as he considered his response. The stakes seemed ever higher. Leaning forward, he steeled himself for what lay ahead. The conversation could either solidify his path toward becoming a transformational figure in his community, or it could unravel the threads of his newfound courage. With a deep breath, he typed back, "I'll see you at 7. As he pressed send, he wondered, was this the moment that would mark the true beginning of his evolution? Would he emerge as a beacon for dialogue and change, or would the tides of criticism pull him under? That night would be one of revelation, both for him and those around him. The storm was coming, and it was time to face the tempest head-on. Clint stood before the mirror, adjusting his collar and practicing the words he hoped would pour from him like a stream of sincerity. The evening's confrontation loomed, each breath heavy with expectations and the weight of his past. Today he was not merely a man defending his narrative but standing firm in his identity. The journey that had brought him to this moment surged through his thoughts, the struggles, the self-exploration, and the realization that sharing his truth was a powerful act of resistance. Arriving at the cafe, he felt his heart race as he spotted Catherine seated at a corner table, her posture rigid, arms crossed. She glanced up, and he met her sharp gaze. "Clint," she greeted coolly, "I hope you're prepared to discuss the implications of your recent articles." He nodded, aware they weren't just words on a page. They were the embodiment of his resolve and conviction. As they began to talk, Clint found himself arrested by the precision of her arguments. Catherine dissected each piece with acute scrutiny, pointing out where he had strayed into personal sentiment over factual advocacy. With every one of her critiques, vulnerability threatened to rear its head, but in that space Clint refused to back down. "I understand the skepticism, Catherine," Clint responded, pinching his voice to maintain steadiness. "But my journey has ignited a fire in me. This isn't just personal anymore. It's about sharing the struggles of our community. If we don't tell these stories, who will?" The words hung in the air, charged with apprehension yet filled with undeniable truth. Catherine paused, eyeing him more thoughtfully. "Are you willing to bear the consequences of putting your voice out there? Are you prepared for the backlash?" Clint inhaled deeply, memories of negative feedback flashing through his mind. The chorus of voices challenging his intent was haunting, but another thought bloomed in him, rediscovering the purpose behind his writing. "I know there will be repercussions, but I choose to be courageous. I want to pave a way for others to share their experiences too. Moving forward requires us to confront our pain, not bottle it." The shift in their conversation was palpable. Catherine appeared contemplative now, her brow furrowing as she mulled over his emphatic declarations. "And you believe that by exposing yourself, others will follow suit?" Tension filled Clint, but this time it felt invigorating. "Yes, if I allow my own struggles to unfold, perhaps that will invite others to do the same, help them feel less isolated in their pain. We're more than mere statistics. We are stories waiting to be told." Their dialogue, once fraught with contention, transformed into a careful exploration of shared values. Each pulse of back-and-forth discussion contained pieces of Clint's evolving identity, revealing growth he had once only glimpsed. He realized how much Catherine's challenges motivated him to articulate a broader narrative and, in turn, how he was forging deeper connections within his community. As they shaped the conversation further, Clint found himself tapping into skills he hadn't fully embraced before: the ability to listen, evolve, and adapt. There was no fear left in the room, only the adrenaline of a shared pursuit for authenticity. He was no longer just defending his voice, he was cultivating a foundation from which others could emerge. By the end of the evening, when they shook hands and walked out into the fresh night air, Clint felt a profound sense of resolution wash over him. Catherine, once his fiercest critic, had shifted to a collaborator. They had forged an understanding for a bigger cause, one that would continue to ripple through their community. Clint returned home, reflecting on the momentous shift that had transpired. The fears that had once paralyzed him began to lose potency in the face of authentic connections he was finally cultivating. This confrontation wasn't merely a challenge, it was a cornerstone for his future, a reminder that standing firm in one's truth leads to deeper understanding and growth. He sat down at his desk, paper spread wide in front of him, and began to type anew, invigorated by the prospect of more collaborative storytelling. This was a moment of clarity. His achievements weren't tied to accolades or mainstream recognition. They resided within the risks he was willing to take for his truth and the truths of his community. So he poured his heart into the next article he would share, rekindling that vibrant connection to genuine storytelling. With each delicate stroke of the pen, he began to take ownership of the legacy he was shaping, allowing the ink to reflect not just his evolution, but a myriad of intertwined narratives waiting to unfold. His world had transformed. He was not just a storyteller, he was a catalyst for change, a beacon of hope illuminating the struggles of many. With every word, he reclaimed his narrative power, proving that true fulfillment comes from embracing one's vulnerabilities and celebrating the transformative force of stories shared. Clint had achieved more than just recognition. He had conquered his own fears and cultivated relationships, solidifying his position as a champion of voices long silenced. The wide expanse of possibility lay before him, the horizon painted with vibrant hues of resilience. This was his moment, the moment he had not only envisioned, but had bravely stepped into. Now, as he reflected on everything that had transpired, he knew the journey would continue, and he embraced it fully. You need to subscribe now to ensure you don't miss the next exclusive emotional stories we've lined up for you. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Your support makes all the difference. Comment below with your reactions to this incredible transformation and your theories about what's next for Clint. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to be inspired by this powerful conclusion. Your help is essential for amplifying these voices.